So October 4th, book birthday for this book, Trayvon Family Saga. It is technically the fourth book I've written in the series, but it is book 3 in Dante and John's story. And there's a couple of things that I was aiming to achieve. First off, I wrote this side by side and at the same time as book 4, The Saint's Blood Eater, which is also up for pre-order and comes out February 20th of next year. But, which is ironic because that one is the start of spring and it's coming out sort of at the start of spring. But this wintry tale, there was a couple of goals that I had. First off, it drives me crazy in a lot of fantasy work that the weakest character or the human character gets mortally wounded and is magically healed in 2 weeks, even though it's sort of like a medieval setting kind of fantasy. I didn't want to do that. So I apologize for those who are Team John, but John is a little out of commission for at least the first third of this book because he's struggling and has been struggling. And it sort of is Dante coping and having to come to terms with that mortality because I think it's very important for them to face that now before everything goes crazy. The other thing that I wanted to resolve is Dante's a beast, right? He is great at the claymore, so much so that Red Wine, Ashton's daughter, is absolutely livid over it and broken-hearted over it. But the thing is that once he loses a weapon, Dante doesn't know how to fight. He sucks at fighting. Hand-to-hand combat is not his forte. He has never done it. I had to resolve this somehow. And I saw a great opportunity in a plot driver because we know they talk about the champion supreme Ashton, right? But that practice of duels and things to resolve things or finding the grand champion didn't exactly go away. It changed over 150 plus years, right? And now the Merchants Guild and the Scarlet Isles have sort of adapted it, changed it to both an entertainment and a way for their queen to kind of find new harem generals for her arcs. She keeps very strong warriors close to her. And it's one way for her to bring warriors from all around the world to the Scarlet Isles. And that's sort of the main drive behind it. And you kind of start to understand that once you go to the Scarlet Isles and the Saints Blood Eater. But it's an opportunity for Dante, one, to sort of de-stress. He's starting to learn that he enjoys fighting a little bit, even though he's not proud of this sensation and this truth about himself. But also, he's closing the gap on experience, and he's a quick learner. So it was a lot of fun to write these different fights and him encountering different types of fighters and picking up things or recalling things from previous fights as he goes further and further into the bracket of, mimicking some of those he had faced before and utilizing those skills and those moves against harder opponents. So that was a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to address is that the guild has not forgotten. We know that, bless them, Glennsdale and his dad and the guild sort of let him play dress up in book 1. And in book 2, they were trying to teach him some basics. But now that we're in book 3, the guild's like, all right, buddy, it's time for your first few missions. And they're smart because the guild sends him on missions he can't say no to. Missions that means he gets to go after who hurt John, go after any fallen arbor themselves, and go after anyone who would bring harm to those that they've made alliances with. And there's some justification in doing those missions, but he also has to realize that some part of him actually enjoyed being this badass who shows up, right? And takes care of the problem. And we also learn a little bit more about the type of villain we are facing in this first book, and especially by the Saint's Blood Eater, or in the book 3. And it is very intimidating, and I want him to be intimidated. I want him to realize that he's facing enemies that his brother failed to take down is what he's discovering in these next two books. And despite that, he's not afraid and doesn't waver, and neither does John. Even though he got horribly hurt, they're like, we're in this together and we're going to make this happen. We're going to make this a better world, which is why this is referred to as Grimbright. It's very dark, very gruesome setting, but with each book and with each action, our main characters are making the world a little brighter, even if it's minuscule, right? So that's a little bit of what to expect out of this book. A lot of character development and relationship development is happening all isolated there in Terrorheim and during winter, and it showcases where they want to go a little bit with each other. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't find ways to imply my favorite writing device, which is morally gray and horribly flawed moments. I think you guys will appreciate a little of the difference that I make in this, and that there's plenty of action despite everything going on. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on the Saint's Blood Eater when the boys finally get on a boat and they finally leave Gragmere and the world gets a lot bigger for them. So I have enjoyed writing these next two installments. Even though my editor is still Team John, know that I will always be Team Dante. What team are you on?